Hi, welcome to Brainstorm, a podcast about writing, genre fiction, and moral quandries. I'm fantasy author Clifton Hill, and I'm fresh out of neurons. In episode 2, I explain when the writing bug bit and then burrowed deep into my brain, and why it can be better to start with short stories, even if you want to really go epic. At one point, I mentioned this episode was running longer than last. Well, that was true, right up until I slashed the length of episode 1. So no, I didn't lie, I was just short-sighted at how much I rambled the first time. And now, on with the show. This time, I'm going to make this a little bit of a shorter episode, and I want to talk specifically about kind of the interim of what I'll be doing between, I guess after I get my book 2 to my editor. Obviously, which I already kind of touched on briefly last episode, I wanted to hopefully try to dive right into book 3 and get that moving right along and get some progress there. So hopefully when the edit was done on book 2, that book 3 already had a nice hefty set of meat to it to toss on the Barbie. But there's something else I've been toying around with for a little while. One thing that and it's something that I think is both beneficial for discoverability as well as for working on my craft and honing my craft. So like probably, and this is an assumption on my part, like probably many epic fantasy fans that turn into writers, we like the big stories. And so the very first story that I started to write, I ran into, this is back in high school, back probably around 1995. I was snagged by the thought of this, like, I don't know, about 2 pages or so of prose. 2 brothers escaping in the dark, a dark presence is running after them, and it just gripped me. And I was just taken with it. It stirred me to start writing this story that was taking place in the universe of which Veil the Warrior takes place in. I call it, for various reasons, the Soldar series, and need something fancier than that. But that's, I guess, kind of the placeholder for now. That's the name of the planet that Veil the Warrior takes place on. So, and little side note, they speak Darian. Not relevant, just a little fun geeky thing. So when I started writing that story, I was totally unable to finish it. I did chapter 1, I did chapter 2. I think I did chapter 3 pretty fast, and I started chapter 4. It was super cliched, super stereotypical, giving a bad guy perspective, and I got stuck. I worked on world building for years, went to college, and it became kind of a side project. Just got shelved, just got pushed to the side. Eventually, I picked up, and the intent was for all of this to be like, 500, 600, 700 pages, 4 to 5 books, multiple series, just epic, And of course, this is for someone that has never written anything. And now I'm kind of at that point, thinking I will write this massive book, a massive series. And I even made the claim back in high school that I would finish book 1 for my senior project. Did not get that done. So the point is that, I as an epic fantasy fan, I just bit off like way more than I could chew, had no idea about how to go about accomplishing it. And though I don't really read short form, I mean, yes, of course, here and there, if it's someone I know, then I check it out, or if I hear really good things about it and happen to run across it, then I might. Recent exceptions would be, let's see,
Okay, local writer Eric Wex. He had a science fiction piece. I think it was like called 18 and 80 or something like that. It's a time travel story, and it kind of cycles around from a person that is young to old and their life in between, and this strange little sci-fi tidbits. And it's a really great character piece, really, really interesting. It's in some sort of collection. I should maybe put a link if I ever post this anywhere. And then another exception being Sonia. I don't have her book in front of me, so Sonia Lyris Oren. I think I got that right. Again, I'll put a link if I do post this. And she wrote this beautiful, wonderful, epic political intrigue, gritty piece called The Seer. Came out, I think, 2015, maybe 16. Wonderful, right up there with Game of Thrones. Anyways, she had a short story that was on, I think she published through Bain Books. Yeah, so I think there's a short on their website that takes place before the novel starts, and that was very well done. So, except for some very small little exceptions here and there, and I apologize if there's road noise. Road's a little rough. So, except for those little exceptions here and there, I just don't read the short form. And so I didn't think about it at all when I was writing. I did write a short story at one point, did submit it for publish. I need to go back, revisit it. It's pretty rough. It was really my first finished piece. And, there's areas where it shows. But I just never did much in the way of short form stuff, which I think was a detriment, because while I love epic, I love big, and I love, sweeping stories and lots of characters, and just, the really strong emotional resonance that can really happen after you're with these characters for hundreds of pages. The caveat being, of course, that hopefully you have this resonance with these characters. Otherwise, the writer's either doing it wrong, or you as a reader are reading the wrong kind of story for you. So I just haven't done these short forms, and I think if I had done more of them, I think I would be just a stronger writer, because you go from start to finish on more story arcs. You just put yourself through the paces more often. As it is, I got my little short story that I never put out anywhere, which was called Child of Iron. There's actually a sample of it on my website, on my blog, cliftonh.com. I think the first chapter or so of it, a little bit rough, but not too much changed from when I originally wrote it. Maybe I should put it up somewhere someday. So I'm thinking about going to delve into all of my story ideas that I have accumulated over the years. I mean, I have no idea how many there are, but I mean, there's, off the top of my head, I could probably run across, 20 to 30 or more of them that I really want to write more about, and that in many cases I want to write, novels and series and so on. The ones that are really dear to me, I probably won't be able to take and try to put into a short story format, but I was thinking that it really would be good for me to try, to do some at least. I mean, if we look back at all the greats, maybe not all, but a lot of the greats, they put out a lot of short fiction. And then if some of that, in some cases, the ones that were highly prized, ended up getting developed into something larger. I believe Anne McCaffrey, right? Dragons of Pern. I believe, if I understand correctly, that originally that started as a short story. And it's a beloved classic by many. So, yes, I'm thinking about, in the interim, maybe grabbing, a couple weeks or so, maybe knock out a couple short stories. Of course, in my mind, not being a short story expert, I'm thinking that it's going to be super easy, just bam, bam, get it done. But I'm sure it will pose more problems, and I'll budget 2 weeks, and I'll probably, want to get 5 done or 10 done, and maybe get 1 done. But yeah, I'm thinking it might be a bit of a good challenge, and great for me to get some of these pieces out, because I do just want to have more fiction out there. Should help with discoverability. Someone can get a free sample perhaps for a while I have it on the blog. Maybe I end up putting it into a compilation and sell it on Amazon and all the rest. Not sure. I'll have to see. Probably my biggest challenge with that is that there's a few ideas, maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6 or so of this glut that I think very highly of, and it would be very difficult for me to put them out in anything less than their kind of ideal state. So I don't know if I'll work on those, but there's definitely some that I really like the ideas of, and I think I can conceive of putting out kind of a short story form of them. So this should be an interesting challenge. I don't have short form story arcs for these. I would have to come up with them, and yet keep the larger idea somehow intact, somehow organized with the story. So if I do go back and revise it larger, then I can do that easily, quote unquote. Yes. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here. Not really sure what else to throw on here to bloat it up, make it larger, longer. Maybe there's really no point. Maybe I can also talk about that I've been kind of going through a rough phase with reading. I think it's in part because I tend to be a little bit on the cheapskate side with books. It's from a long time of having a pretty strict budget for various reasons. And now that it's not quite as bad, I think it's still hard to let go of old habits. So there are a number of books out there I want to read that I've heard great things about, sound amazing, but I'm not reading those. I'm reading the ones I can find, for a free borrow on Overdrive, or, borrowing physical specimens via the library, or finding cheap ones, on Amazon. So I'm reading a book right now that's, I won't say the author's name. I like him a lot as a writer in general, and as a YouTuber and whatnot, putting out some great writing advice, putting out some great philosophical thoughts, and just seeming like just a really awesome person. I think the books are suffering from kind of this wandering adventurer's illness, where while some people probably will not have any issue with this at all, everything is very subjective, right? After all, some people loved Twilight and some people didn't. So, like The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, I read that, and it reminds me a little bit of this book I'm reading right now, which is the second in its series, because it's just really kind of an account of a character wandering on an adventure, but there's no real set, goal in mind. I think over time, perhaps, maybe maybe a stronger overarching plot will develop, but by book 2, something like 600, 700 pages of prose so far, it's not there yet. I mean, you essentially know kind of where it's going to go, but it seems like it might take a while to get there, and the cards are being held pretty close. Which I'm fine with having, larger overarching plots, having the story develop into these pieces over time. It's not like, from page 1, you instantly need to know there's a Dark Lord and they're going to destroy the world and blah, blah. You actually kind of did for Harry Potter. It's kind of funny, right? And it did work, but it wasn't like, hitting you in the face with it over and over again. It was just there in the background. And eventually you kind of worked into it. So, the point being is, like, I'm kind of bummed that I'm just not really enjoying some of, the writing. The reading that I'm doing right now. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, I know some people like books that are really strong character on character and have weak plots, or don't have a strong goal that's apparent, that they're kind of working to, like a cohesive goal or conflict we're trying to, overcome. I know they're out there. I'm sure they're out there. I think. But I don't know, just for me, I feel like you've got to have a strong characters, and you've got to have a strong plot. And that's just what makes the best stories. You can have a good story without both. But for the best stories, you need both. That's what I think. But I'm just one person. I don't know everything. And I certainly only have my set of opinions to go off of. All right. Well, that's all for now. Check back next time, if there is a next time.
Thanks for listening, dear reader. Visit www.cliftonh.com, subscribe to my newsletter, and read my books. Reading is awesome.